Second Stone is an upcoming action RPG that marries tight collectathon platforming with highly customizable RPG mechanics. A sprawling, vibrant adventure drawing inspiration from many of the formative games I grew up with. Classics like Jak and Daxter, Mario 64, Final Fantasy VII, Zelda, Diablo, and Kingdom Hearts, to name a few. Cherry-picking their best qualities to form an epic that does feel like a nostalgia trip, but more so something fresh and inspired. Second Stone is the debut title of Skyward Entertainment, a small studio of only a handful of developers based out of Finland, founded by childhood best friends who simply wanted to create the game their younger selves dreamed of. Skyward was kind enough to share with me an early preview build of Second Stone, and after spending a good amount of hours in it, I knew it was something I just had to talk about, especially as I was picking my jaw up off the floor. So today I'm giving you a first look at many of the aspects that make up Second Stone. And if you're someone who grew up on the games I grew up with, believe me, you're gonna want this on your radar. Real quick, keep in mind this is an early preview build, and most of what you're going to see is a work in progress. To remind, at its core, Second Stone is a marriage of action RPG and collectathon platformer. You explore a large, mostly non-linear, and so far beautifully rendered world, battling monsters with blades, bows, and magic, taking on quests, and springing on platforms like an acrobat. The platforming feel and mechanics take their cues from the mascot platformers of the PS2 canon, Jak and Daxter especially. What made those old PS2 platformers so fun is that first and foremost they made sure the character was fun to control, and clearly Skyward did not miss that memo. The jumping feels energetic, fluid, and springy, and controls are tight and precise, affording some good air control if the player suddenly needs to change the direction of their jump or get stretchy with a last-minute double jump. Plus, you can do an air dash to pull off some tricksy moves. And it was hard not to feel nostalgic jumping on the ancient jungle ruins in the early part of the demo. A visual wink and nod to Jak and Daxter, sure, but for me it brought me back to its spiritual predecessor, Crash Bandicoot, warming my heart as my younger self learned how to play platformers in the school of the Bandicoot. If I had to get picky, and I mean picky, there could be a slightly heavier feel to the character and a stronger sense of gravity. At times, the jumping could feel a hair floaty. But to stress, that's a minor note for a work-in-progress system that already feels amazing. Combat is a mixture of hack and slash with magic, vibing like Zelda, Kingdom Hearts, and Diablo all at once. The build I played let me slice and dice enemies with a pair of daggers, a standard sword, along with a beefy greatsword, which felt more like a sledgehammer. I also had a long-range bow and arrow, which to my delight I could shoot while in the air, turning me into something like a fighter jet, dashing about and raining arrows down with glee. You can also have two weapons equipped at a time, with only a button tap to swap between them. So for me, I stuck with a bladed weapon and a bow so I could shoot distant enemies at a moment's notice. It's satisfying combat thus far, rapid and punchy, highly responsive, and dripping with spectacle. That even in this preview build got quite frantic and challenging, especially when up against hordes of enemies, saturating the ground with AoE attacks and crowding the space with projectiles, putting my dash button to good use and certainly justifying the Smash Bros.-esque blocking mechanic, where you are enclosed in an ever-shrinking protective bubble. Along with your bows and blades, you can cast a variety of ranged spells with a magical armlet, like homing fireballs and slow-moving electrical orbs, done so by equipping Manastones. Manastones of various elemental types are collected throughout the world, either as pickups from enemy drops or smashed from big old crystals. Your armlet has several slots where these stones can be equipped, lending their corresponding elemental magic. So if you equip Ember Stones, Fire Magic, or Rime Stones, Freezing Magic, you are able to shoot Fire and Ice spells. And you can mix and match, so equip both Fire and Ice Stones to have Fire and Ice magic at hand, or Earth and Electric, or Water and Air. I think you get the drift. The Manastones can be leveled up and made stronger by fusing them with lesser Manastones, motivating you to always be collecting them throughout your journey. Fusing Manastones also lets you customize their magical spell. So where the lower level Manastones might shoot a simple fireball, higher level ones can be made to throw out cluster bombs or homing missiles. There's a lot of freedom the player has with this. Pierce, scattershot, power, pierce. Your weapons and armor can also be equipped with Manastones and take on their attributes. An Emberstone in your sword will give it fire properties, a Sparkstone slotted into the bow will electrocute enemies when the arrow strikes them. And since weapons have multiple slots, you can combine Manastones and their elemental properties and really cause some damage. And you guessed it, certain enemies will have elemental strengths and weaknesses that will require you to tweak and swap out Manastones to optimize your combat effectiveness. Now, if during all this Manastone talk some of you were thinking, that kind of reminds me of the materia system from Final Fantasy VII. Yep, you're right on the money. It was a direct inspiration for this system. And seeing it applied to a game such as this is pretty cool in my book, and hopefully lends a wealth of customization and depth in the final product so I can turn our hero into an elemental juggernaut. Second Stone will feature a unique leveling system that isn't dependent on earning XP, taking a cue from the collectathon nature of collectathon platformers. Okay, so imagine the main collectible from your favorite platformer, like the stars from Mario, the power cells from Jak and Daxter. Now imagine you can use those to upgrade the specific stats of your character. That's how this basically works. Throughout the game, you can collect power beads, which can be slotted into something called the Astral Tablet, a circular device that somewhat resembles the sphere grid from Final Fantasy X. Each slot will increase stats like strength, vigor, intellect, health, and grant you new perks and abilities. And as you place more beads, the more tracks and options you unlock. What's cool though is that all of these beads can be removed at any time, allowing you to replace them with more powerful beads for greater increases to your stats, or to respec your character entirely. Not only is it a system that's easy to grasp, it allows for a lot of flexibility to tailor your specific build. And you gotta love that it isn't dependent on grinding out XP. There was a point in the build where the game world really opened up, and I was free to explore as much as the preview allowed. And believe you me, there was a lot of space to explore. The whole time I was going, ooh, what's over there? Ooh, what's over there? Ooh, what's over there? There were pockets of enemies to take on and mini-bosses to melt with power beads and equipment to reward. There were side quests to solve and challenge temples to unlock by finding special keys, not to mention the various portals to the Shrouded World. Oh yeah, by the way, there is a mirrored dark world you can travel to, much in the vein of Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past and Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. And yep, it's full of doom and gloom and all sorts of horrible things that want to hurt you. When in the Shrouded World, you accumulate decay, which reduces the damage you deal and eventually drains your life. So you need to budget your time in there accordingly. There are pockets of astral light that will alleviate your decay buildup and envelop you in light that will allow you to see and dissolve clumps of darkness off enemies, allowing you to attack them. Your attacks are ineffective otherwise. However, the light is temporary, and when it goes away, you'll have to retreat back to a light source or find a new one altogether. The Shrouded World is definitely a difficulty spike. The first time I ventured in, I actually got pretty overwhelmed by how vicious and numerous the enemies were. Not to mention the lack of visibility is a huge hindrance until you can reach a light source. But trips to the Dark World are beneficial. Stronger power beads can be obtained and new areas can be reached that are otherwise inaccessible in the normal world. And a cool touch is that things you do in the light world affect the dark. For example, new light sources can be created by interacting with special plants in the normal world. While I appreciate the inclusion of the Shrouded World, if I had to be honest, so far it feels like a by-the-numbers version of what Link to the Past and Prime 2 Echoes did. And I'm hoping the Dark World of the full game brings more surprises, curveballs, and interdimensional brain teasers. Now, everything I've detailed so far is enough to promise that Second Stone will be a rich and fulfilling gaming experience. But in a truly hold my beer style, this build also has two other, wholly optional, features that could be entire games in and of themselves. There's a place in this build called Arimaya Village, where our hero can upgrade his weapons, chat with NPCs, and take on side quests. They can also challenge the villagers to Mana Clash, a deck-building card game involving dice rolls and special cards to whittle your opponent's armor and health down until you achieve victory. For the Final Fantasy fans watching, it's a wink and a nod to the Triple Triad and Tetramaster card games of Final Fantasy VIII and IX respectively, and I would say it vibes like Gwent from Witcher 3 as well. When I discovered it, my attitude was, well, I'll give it a few minutes and see what it's all about and then move on. And before I knew it, hours had passed. Yeah, I got thoroughly hooked on this minigame, and there's actually a whole quest revolving around it that got stupidly difficult. I mean, there is so much this game is doing, and so far doing well, and the fact that it threw in a fleshed out card game, an addictive one at that, is mind-blowing. Although this next thing is even more shocking if you ask me. At around the midpoint of the build, I unlocked something called the Temple of Izithra. This is a procedurally generated dungeon where your Astral Tablet and abilities are wiped when you start. You take it on totally fresh. After clearing each room of enemies, you're rewarded upgrades, abilities, and currency. And when you're defeated, you lose everything and have to start over, but are able to purchase persistent upgrades to give you an edge on the next attempt. Yeah, that's right. Along with a full sprawling ARPG campaign and a collectible card game, Second Stone is also going to have a full roguelike built into it, one that's not all that different from something like Hades. To remind, it's optional, and it is fun from what I've played of it. It is a steady escalation of challenge that gave me some of my toughest battles of my playthrough, with unique and enjoyable boss fights, and the persistent upgrade system kept me hooked into it. Second Stone is showing a ton of promise. Despite still being a work in progress, every one of its aspects so far is showing a lot of quality and are really fun to play. And the fact that it's essentially going to have 3 distinct games built into it, the main ARPG campaign, the card game, and the roguelike, is jaw-dropping to say the least. Does it raise concern that this game might be spreading itself thin? Sure, but after playing this lengthy build, FYI, I put roughly 6 hours into this, I'm feeling confident Skyward Entertainment has this game in hand. But of course, the full version will prove if they can truly stick the landing. Now, while the developers did tell me they are targeting a 2026 release for Second Stone, unfortunately they were pretty tight-lipped in terms of a specific release date or if it was coming to more systems beyond PC. However, I do know that there will be more information on Second Stone very, very soon, so keep an eye out for that. To wrap up, I want to thank Skyward Entertainment for sharing this early build with me. And to my audience, let me know if you'd like to see me cover more games like Second Stone, specifically platformers. I've been itching to get some on my channel. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to like, subscribe, share, and smack that bell. It's a huge help for the algorithm and getting my videos seen by more people. If you want to join my Discord, the link is down below, along with my affiliate links. I'm Kirk, and thank you for watching this video. Stay safe out there.